Hello and welcome back to UnKind TV. I'm Martha, and today I will be discussing The Real Housewives of New York City, Season 12, Reunion Part 1. Fair warning, everybody, I am exhausted. I am on no sleep. I stayed up all night. I just dropped off my sweet dog for surgery to remove her cancer. So I am a little bit cracked out on caffeine. Bear with me, please. At least the reunion was good, though, so this is a wonderful distraction. After a decidedly lackluster season, I must say, I thought the reunion delivered. I was laughing for a very good portion of it. It was so nice to see some humor instead of the darkness that we've been watching on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So this is the first in-person Real Housewives reunion since the pandemic hit. It is surreal to watch the ladies arriving wearing masks, getting their temperatures checked. But somehow, because it's the Real Housewives of New York group, it's a little bit funny. Ramona looks like she's about to say, put the lotion in the basket. Luann, of course, is wearing a mask of her own face. The reunion set is so strange. When they were filming this, they were all checking in at Ohika Castle. Ohika Castle is beautiful, and somehow they're filming in what looks like an abandoned warehouse with crates all over the place. There are random rugs in front of each of them. They are spaced out very far apart. I just don't get it. At Ohika Castle, people have weddings there. Why couldn't they get a ballroom or something? Why are they in this space that looks like the Long Island serial killer's lair? I like the seating arrangement. I actually think it's better than when they're all crammed together on the couch. There's less side conversations this way. And also, it kind of reduces the chances, not just of spreading COVID, but of one of them attacking the other. Leah, I think, looks beautiful. They were going on and on about the fashion choice. To me, she looked like she was wearing a bathing suit and a cover-up, but somehow still gorgeous. Dorinda looks again like Karen from Human Resources, but she looks nice. Ramona and Luann are both wearing simple black dresses. I think they look great. Sonia is showing off all the work she had done. She looks phenomenal. She says that she really loves Ellen Barkin and she wanted to be styled after her. She succeeded. She looks like a prettier Ellen Barkin. The haircut looks wonderful. The plastic surgery, excellent work. She looks refreshed, she looks happy, and she looks healthy. Tinsley is back. I like Tinsley. I'm happy she's there. She's the one who's the most dressed up. To me, she looks like a tragic Disney princess, but still lovely. Maybe it's because I'm a New Yorker, I'm partial to their fashion choices, but I think that they look very good. Since the Beverly Hills reunion is airing at the same time, I have their looks fresh in my memory, and I just think they look ridiculous and over the top and tacky. And I much prefer the way the ladies of New York showed up. Fun, we jump into quarantine discussion. So, Ramona, where did you spend the quarantine? Ramona spent the quarantine in Florida with Avery and Mario. They got to be a little family unit again. Andy asks if there's any chance of a reconciliation with Ramona and Mario. And she says, no, because he doesn't stimulate me. I like what I'm doing with my life. I'm sure Mario is very eager to remarry Ramona. Sonia spent the quarantine exactly as you would expect, trapped at a spa getting colonics. Luann says that she has managed to stay very busy working on my memoir and F, Marry, Kill. Andy brings up that Leah slammed her castmates, not naming names, on Instagram. They show the video that she had posted where she said, I am so disgusted with some of my castmates who are in Florida right now. And Ramona says, it's obviously me because I'm the one who was in Florida. And she's wrong because I took all the precautions. Leah is angry because she feels what was so insulting about the way Ramona spent the quarantine was her complete lack of awareness. That people were dying, people were separated from their loved ones and couldn't be with them as they passed. People were unemployed from one day to the next, losing everything. And Ramona was boasting about what a wonderful time she was having. And Leah puts it very well. She goes, it was just the total lack of empathy. Ramona counters with, I was waking up every day, 4 o'clock in the morning, watching the news, okay? Death toll was getting higher and higher, and I was very traumatized. So I was doing exercise classes. People said I was inspirational. What was I going to do? Hole up and cry all day? That's what I did. Leah says, you didn't acknowledge the situation and you lied about donating your blood. Now the comment about donating blood leads Andy to mention that Ramona did in fact contract COVID. And she comes up with a very convoluted story about that. Let me set the record straight. She does anything but set the record straight, but okay, here goes. I had a sinus infection and I had Lyme disease. And at that time, they weren't testing for the COVID. So at that time, nobody knew I had COVID. Then I was in Florida and a doctor figured it out. He was very smart. And so I had the antibodies. They said, you had COVID. And the doctor said, wow. You had Lyme disease and a sinus infection and COVID and you survived? Man, you're a strong girl. Leah, you don't follow the rules. Ramona snaps. Yeah, I did follow the rules and I was allowed to come back, bitch. They all react to that strong language. Well, that video was mean with the mask on and the fingers low brow. This is where I started laughing. Andy says, Dorinda, you were upset with Ramona because she attended a party in the Hamptons hosted by Donald Trump Jr. and then his girlfriend tested positive for COVID right after that. Dorinda just kind of starts talking to nobody. She says, she's not going to tell the truth. There's rules and regulations for a reason. It's not just for yourself. It's to protect and respect other people. Wow, Dorinda makes so much sense when she's not drunk. And Ramona just starts screaming, I don't have the virus. I don't have the virus. I wash my hands a lot. I don't have the virus. Don't have the virus. I don't have the virus. Then Luann goes, I thought you did have the virus. Then Dorinda jumps in. At night in Florida, she was at a speakeasy. She wasn't following the rules. She was going underground, partying at night, no mask on. She was with Harry Dubin. A speakeasy. Ramona the super spreader. At some point, somebody says something about God knows how many people Ramona infected in the time before she knew she had it, when she was just flouting all the rules. Typical Ramona. If you said to me, which of the Real Housewives do you think most likely carried COVID and spread it to other people? Immediately, I would have said Ramona Singer. Then Ramona and Dorinda start screaming over each other, but repeating the same phrase on a loop, like the record got stuck. We are responsible for the message. We're responsible for the message. I don't have to wear a mask in the ocean. I don't have to wear a mask in the ocean. We are responsible for the message. I don't have to wear a mask in the ocean. And then Leah says, and it's kind of what I think we're all thinking. It's not about the mask, you fucking idiot. It's about showing yourself having the time of your life in a pandemic. That felt good. Andy actually has to scream, shut up. And I kind of feel bad for him because he had COVID and that takes a toll on your system. Take it easy, Andy. Dorinda and Ramona are like two kindergartners. Like they can't stop trading barbs at each other. So they do all quiet down when Andy screams, but Dorinda manages to sneak in. So heartbreaking. Andy says to Ramona, can I make one more comment about COVID? No, it's done. It's over. Next. Andy, shut it down now. And Andy says, I'm going to say one more thing. Do you understand that what you were putting out there wasn't compliant? Florida opened up 45 days before New York. I posted a picture with a friend at a restaurant, which I was allowed to do, and I was following the rules. Andy goes over Leah's first impressions, and he mentions that she got some really good feedback from some very famous people, including Sarah Paulson and John Oliver. Leah says she's really happy that she got generally good feedback because while this was airing, she was on lockdown, and it would have been really hard to deal with if that stuff was all negative and I was just trapped at home reading bad stuff about myself. It would have been debilitating. The ladies go around sharing their initial thoughts on Leah. Luann says, I thought she was very tough, but vulnerable at the same time. Sonia says, I like that when you're talking to her, she listens to you. Dorinda says, I like the new angle she brought to the show, taking us downtown. And she's confident. Leah says that she decided to stop drinking after the show wrapped. Tinsley feels like when she joined Housewives, she was in an awful place, and so she was kind of a weakling. And she appreciates that Leah came in ready to duke it out. Andy reads a question that says, essentially, Leah is always age-shaming the other ladies because she's the youngest. But they all say they don't think she did that at all, that she did come to them for advice and respect them as maybe being a little bit wiser because they are older. And I feel like it kind of would have been the elephant in the room to not have a little bit of humor about the age difference. She is significantly younger, and I thought her humor was always playful. It wasn't mean. Andy asks if Dorinda, Sonia, and Ramona feel bad now about all the tattoo shaming and how hard they were on Leah for having tattoos. Leah says the only thing that actually bothered her was when Sonia said, well, now I'm not going to sleep with you now that I know you have tattoos. She says, maybe because it's a sexual thing, it made me feel less attractive. And Sonia says, it's just a joke because we had a little bit of chemistry. And I said, well, that's that. We're not sleeping together. Next question, Leah, why do you have wings tattooed on your vagina? She's like, this is kind of a crazy story. I don't know if you can air this. When I was 18 years old, I did hallucinogenics and I went to another dimension of the universe. And while I was there, I had purple wings. And so when I came to, I was like, well, I can't have this tattooed on my back because that's so obvious. So I'll put them on my pussy. Sure, why not? And Dorinda wants to know, what do guys think of it? And Leah says they love it. I bet. Leah says her family really doesn't mind her being on the show. Her mother is not thrilled. Her father actually loves it because he has a huge crush on Sonia. She says Rob gets a little bit jealous of her interactions with other men on the show, and she tries not to let her young daughter see too much of the show. Leah clarifies that she was sober for 9 years and it wasn't the show that caused her to start drinking again. She says she actually started drinking not long before she joined the show. She didn't even know she was going to be part of Housewives when she started drinking again. And she says that since she stopped, she's glad she spent 9 months drinking with the funnest bitches. And now we address one of the things that made the season kind of awful was all the sloppy boozing. Not just Leah, but the whole group drank excessively. Leah says she's addressed her behavior. She saw the season and she stopped drinking. Sonia says, I definitely reeled it in. I knew I had to get a grip. And then Andy says, Dorinda, did you see anything that makes you want to maybe alter your behavior? This became a comedy routine. I know a lot of you get very frustrated, and it is irritating that Dorinda deflects. She has to take the heat off herself because she does have a problem. But the way she does it was, for me, comedy gold. I, for the first time in a long time, really did laugh out loud watching this exchange. So Dorinda, did you see anything that made you want to alter your behavior? I mean, of course, we all stop when the season ends. It's not like I'm out every night like Ramona. I drink water. Why do you think I'm so thin? Yeah, that's that thin. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Kindergarten, 5 years old. She literally just said liar, liar, pants on fire. Andy asks Leah, why didn't you feel more shame after what happened in Newport? Well, we just saw everyone except basically Tinsley acting ridiculous, but for some reason I'm singled out and made to feel bad, like by Ramona. Well, that's what she does. This one's a drunk, you're a whore. Did you call me a whore, Ramona? Well, no, I did not. No, that whore. Tramp. She called you tramp. These are lies. I hate when you do this. You are disgusting. Oh my God, go to church. Andy asks Leah, what made you decide to stop drinking? And Leah says, we are in a pandemic. I have a child. I need to be at the top of my game. There is no room for me to be drinking in any capacity. I'm not having fun. I don't want to be out of it. I need to be present during this crisis. Andy says, Luann, was that drink on the show really your first time drinking after you had violated your probation?
Yeah, it was. I mean, why not try it? I reeled it in. I stopped drinking again. I don't want to label myself, but I am someone who just definitely should not drink. I'm someone who, maybe when they drink, their whole personality changes and they don't stop. Definitely not alcoholism.
Andy says, ladies, did Lou's outburst in the Berkshires give you pause about her drinking again?
It gave me pause. I've had to reevaluate my relationship to alcohol. That's definitely not alcoholism. Let's not label it that.
It's fine. Billy Joel does the same thing. He says he's an alcohol abuser, not an alcoholic. Maybe he crashed his car into a tree drunk driving. As long as you realize you shouldn't be drinking and you stick to it, call it whatever you like. Andy turns back to the kindergartners. Dorinda, it seems you get very mean and defensive when questioned about your drinking. That's wrong. Ramona does that as a zinger. He's talking about you. Oh, I'm scared. People call me a drunk. Calm down, darling. Calm down. You're a drunk. I feel sorry for you. No, you're a drunk. I feel sorry for you. Andy, I asked Dorinda a question. Why are you sensitive on this subject? Well, Ramona. But why are you sensitive about it, Dorinda? Because I find it to be accusatory, maybe. I don't point out when Ramona drinks too much or when she's sleeping with a bunch of different men. You see, she can't answer the question. Deflect Dorinda. Deflecting Dorinda. Luann says,
Dorinda doesn't like to be told when she's had too much to drink. I just look out for my friends.
Nope, that's true. I will say that Luann does look out for people. Ramona does this to harm people's reputations. I'm angry. She's a drunk. You're bipolar. She says she supports other women, but she really doesn't. Dorinda, I'm asking you. Yep. Deflection, Dorinda. Oh, nice facelift. Really looks amazing. Andy again, Dorinda, answer the question. Ramona aside. I just feel uncomfortable with it. Period. Done. When you watch it back, do you question your relationship with alcohol, Dorinda? Yes, of course. I think we all do. It's stress related. I don't have an outlet. I use alcohol. Luann says,
we all have our days.
And Sonia says, she's going through a lot. Sonia's comment prompts Andy to bring up why were all the ladies so worried about Sonia's drinking. It seems that as opposed to other times when Sonia's been drunk, that was the result of her drinking over a prolonged period of time, whereas this season she was getting drunk almost instantly. Sonia says it was because of her water pills. She says she takes a diuretic, and the diuretic was making her walk like a sailor, and it doesn't mix well with the alcohol, and as soon as she threw out the water pills, she stopped having this problem. I don't believe it. Dorinda doesn't believe it. Dorinda's like, I've been taking the same pills since menopause every day. Maybe you shouldn't. I think Sonia probably takes Xanax or an antidepressant, something. All those things that we are all overprescribed do not mix well with alcohol. If you take a Valium or Ativan or Xanax or Klonopin and you have a little booze, bam. That's actually very dangerous. Don't mix those things. That's one of the top causes of accidental overdose, so don't do that. And now it's time to talk about Tinsley. Tinsley shows off her engagement ring, and the group is generally supportive. They're being very nice to her. I really want Tinsley to be happy. I like Tinsley. I have heard from people who've met her just on the street that she's very charming, she's very sweet and gracious. I want the best for her, but this whole thing gives me such a bad vibe. Andy asks, was there something that was causing you and Scott to break up so much? Like, what finally did it? And she says it was mainly the long distance, that being in New York while Scott was in Chicago was too much, and that when she finally moved to Chicago, it solidified things between them. And she says she realized that all along, even when she broke up with Scott, everything she did was sort of manipulation to get him back. Like, she was dating that guy Bruce briefly, and she's like, why was I dating Bruce? Because Chicago. Everything she did, as Andy says, you like to play a game. It was all with the intention of getting Scott back. Tinsley says she enjoyed the pandemic because it gave her an opportunity to show Scott that she can be a housewife, that she loved cooking and cleaning. Again, I have to say, not that there's anything wrong with that necessarily. It's just she seems very eager to please him, and he doesn't seem so eager to please her. Andy asks, are you planning on doing anything else in Chicago besides being a housewife? And Tinsley says that she's very fortunate and that she will devote a lot of her time to helping animals. As Ramona says, raising awareness. Tinsley says that very few people in this group were supportive of her relationship. She says that a couple of them started to come around when they were falling out of Dorinda's spell. Luann says, well, we were skeptical. I mean, you have to give us that. You broke up so many times. And Tinsley says that she couldn't talk about anything with them because she would be shut down. Like, if she tried to tell Sonia that she wanted to have kids, Sonia would roll her eyes and say, not this again, which Sonia does right then and there. She's like, well, that's all you talk about. And she's like, well, that's my life. Andy asks if Scott had a hand in Tinsley deciding to leave the show. And Tinsley appears to me to be a little overly defensive about that. She says Scott didn't make her leave, but he wasn't crazy about her being on the show. And Dorinda says, you bet Scott because of the show. Thank you, bravo. And now he hates us? And Tinsley says, yes, I admit I chose Scott over remaining on the show because being here could potentially be toxic to my relationship. That's fair. Housewives is not good for relationships, hence why none of the Real Housewives of New York are married. Luann and Ramona both say that they support Tinsley's decision and say they would have done the same thing. Ramona's like, yeah, if a guy's gonna put a ring on it, yeah, I'd leave.
And Luann says, I did leave. I left an Italian show for my husband.
Tinsley says that leaving the show was something that proved her devotion to Scott. That bothers me. You couldn't tell she was devoted and in love with you. It took her giving up her spot on the show and what little independence she seems to have for you to propose marriage. And in the middle of this discussion, Sonia has a true Sonia moment. She starts rubbing hand sanitizer all over her legs because she needs a little glow. And now we revisit all the mean things Dorinda said about Tinsley and to Tinsley, and it is ugly. Dorinda really looks bad because she behaved badly. Tinsley is angriest over Dorinda joking about her getting pregnant with a turkey baster. She said that was cruel and insensitive to women who struggle with fertility. It was a jab because Tinsley's going to use IVF. She has frozen eggs. Dorinda does apologize. She says she realizes that was a terrible joke, but she didn't realize Tinsley had fertility issues, and Tinsley has to explain that it doesn't matter whether she has fertility issues or not. It's mean to viewers who go through fertility struggles every day, and that because she chose to freeze her eggs, she will have to go through IVF and use the turkey baster. Andy says, I thought it was mean. And I would imagine Andy is sensitive about this subject because he conceived his beautiful son through IVF with a surrogate. I think Dorinda hit the wrong nerve there. It's funny. Ramona stops everything to announce, did you hear what Dorinda said? She did something that she really never actually does. She just apologized. She said sorry. Just like, that's not true. I apologize to you all the time. This reunion, even at its ugliest, darkest moments, discussing the jabs at fertility issues. The dynamic between Ramona and Dorinda, being kindergartners, provides comic relief. Andy reads a question that I think reflects how a lot of us feel. Dorinda, what is your problem? You talk about having lived a charmed life with Richard. You live down the street from Princess Diana, and Tinsley wants the same thing. So why do you have such a problem with that? Dorinda says, I believe half of what I hear and all of what I see. There's a lot of things that went on off the show. And then there is a big reveal. Do you guys remember last year in the mid-season trailer promoting the trip to Miami? We saw Dorinda cursing somebody out on the phone. She was really mad. She was doing a lot of this. And that person was John Medesian, as we find out. That phone call is tied to all these issues with Dorinda and Tinsley. Tinsley says that when they weren't filming, they were in Miami, but the cameras were not rolling. She told Dorinda that Scott had generously given John some money, and Dorinda flipped out. And they had a horrible fight, and it was so bad that Tinsley says producers were worried for her safety and didn't want her to stay in the house that night because Dorinda was in a blind rage. Initially, Dorinda denies that this has anything to do with the John getting money. She's like, I never had anything to do with John's finances. But we see the call, and she says, you don't go running game behind my back. The bottom line is the phone call was about her telling John, if I say stay away from Scott, you better listen to me. She really doesn't like Scott, and she was very, very, very pissed. And it doesn't make sense why, but Tinsley says that was the origin of their feud. That's what started Dorinda picking on her and her obsession. And Tinsley says, you're obsessed with my life. I'm getting married. Move on. And Dorinda says, yeah, you want financial security. Tinsley, I would hate your life. That's where we leave off. But I have to share something with you that I think possibly changes how we might see Dorinda in this situation. There has been some gossip circulating. It's unsubstantiated. This is all allegedly everything. I have no proof of it. But I've seen it popping up more and more, like blind items, stuff on Twitter, stuff on Reddit, that Dorinda saw something between Scott and Tinsley that she really didn't like. Something to the tune of him being aggressive toward Tinsley. Again, I have no proof of this. It's just some tea that's being spilled online. But I have always thought that Scott was very controlling. He's always rubbed me the wrong way. Tinsley's behavior about Scott has been odd. You know, when Bethany dared her to call Scott and she ran away crying, and how defensive she is. And Dorinda always points out, when you think about Dorinda's comments, how, Tinsley, you're not telling the whole story. Tinsley, you're not open with us. Tinsley, you're not sharing. Tinsley, you were seen with him and you better go tell the girls. I could see Dorinda being the kind of person who, instead of handling what you think might be a potentially dangerous situation for someone you care about with the right kind of delicate, loving approach, getting aggravated and losing your patience and thinking, what is wrong with you that you keep running back to this guy after what I saw? With that in mind, can't you kind of see why Dorinda was like pushing her so much? Because, I mean, I get it. A lot of you say, and I thought too, wow, she's such a bitter drunk. She's jealous of Tinsley's life. But then when they show the montage of the things Dorinda said, it does sound like someone who's annoyed at Tinsley because she expects better of her. Like she lost respect for her for being in this situation. I don't agree with that. If this is true, and I hope it is not. I hope it's just BS. I hope it is just nonsense that people are spreading online. I don't want it to be the case. I really want Tinsley to be happy and safe and healthy and have everything she desires in this life. But just based on what we've seen from Scott and Dorinda's reaction to him being so strong, the way she's flipping out at John for taking money from him, and why did he give John money? Maybe we'll find out more in the next two parts of the reunion, but when I read this and I kept hearing it, I couldn't help but wonder if there's some truth to it and if Dorinda is muzzled. Because, you know, housewives can't sue each other, but now Tinsley left the show and Scott is not a housewife and Dorinda has been hemorrhaging money. As we've heard over and over, she had to spend a fortune fixing Bluestone Manor after it was flooded. She's been renovating her old apartment. She's very stressed about money. I don't think she could afford to be sued by this guy. He's very well off, and he has nothing stopping him from bleeding her dry in litigation. So she can't really say anything, because you know he would absolutely sue her. So if you think about it that way, you saw something you really didn't like that this guy did. You can't say it, but you keep alluding to it. And if it is true, and Tinsley kept making like, you're just jealous, leave me alone, you're obsessed, it makes me have this much more understanding of why Dorinda was behaving the way she was. I don't agree with it, don't condone it, but it certainly changes things. Maybe she's not just a crazy alcoholic and Tinsley is like her white whale. Maybe she's frustrated with Tinsley and she has a very unhealthy way of communicating that. Again, I have no way of knowing whether this is true. Take it with a grain of salt, take it with a salt shaker, take it with a Himalayan salt lamp. It's just something to think about. But that's that for part 1 of the reunion. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't. As always, I very much like to hear what you have to say, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. You can follow UnKind TV on Instagram and Twitter. I will be back to discuss part 2 of the Beverly Hills reunion, and of course, I will be continuing to cover the New York reunion. If you're looking for more ways to support UnKind TV or any other information about the channel, you can find that in the description box below every video. I'm going to go back to anxiously waiting for news about my dog and her surgery. And to those of you who have been following her health crisis since August, thank you so much for being so supportive and understanding and loving, and all your sweet comments and your prayers and your positive thoughts. It really means a lot to me, sincerely. Thank you. And I will keep you updated as to what's going on with her. She's expected to make a full recovery, so let's hope for the best. Thank you so much. Bye.